There was a transgender major at 7th Group when I got here, so it was like a Green Beret who he identified as a she. That was the first test of what are you going to do. At that point in time, the metric for being a good leader was the percentage of your unit that had taken the COVID shot. One, you say that COVID's extremely dangerous, the shot's safe. Like, it's not. We've had this many deaths associated with the shot. Two, you say that it's FDA approved. It's not FDA approved. I can't actually honor this order.
They want a headline. They want it to go quietly. And I think... All right. Hey, welcome to Remnant Finance Podcast. It's got a special guest in the house today. Our first Special Forces guy on the show so far, and our first candidate for Congress. So we've got John Frankman here. We met through the Declaration of Military Accountability group, which is an effort that John has been pivotal in, headed by Commander Rob Green, to hold the military leaders accountable for the crimes they committed during COVID. So we've got a lot to talk about there. John, welcome to the Remnant Finance Podcast.
Hans, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. Good to be here.
Yeah, and just saying before we hit record, you went from just being on with Matt Gaetz, who's got an enormous audience that most people in the country have heard of, to the Remnant Finance Podcast with 1,000 or fewer listeners. So you
hey
can
man,
suit and tie
Rob
off.
Green on. You're friends with Rob Green. That's good enough for me. So whatever.
Yeah, there we go. I love it. All right, so I want to talk through your background. I want to talk through the Green Beret. It's funny. I live 2 miles from Buds, from the amphib base on Coronado.
Oh, okay.
And so I have quite a few friends just from being in the Navy, stationed here 3 times. I have quite a few friends who are SEALs, but they're the first Special Forces guests that we've had on here. We've had a couple pilots and other folks in me and Brian both being pilots in that network. But I would not have guessed we'd have a Green Beret on before SEAL. So I do want to talk about some of the differences there. I think everyone's interested, and there's just cool stuff to learn about the training. And then we'll shift to accountability, the mandate fight, your experience with the COVID mandate, and then what you've been doing between then, when you got out of the military, and now running for Congress. And we'll cover all that. So I think that'll fill the time we've got here. So let's kick it off with, give us a little background and who you are, where you come from, and how you got to the Army.
Sure. I mean, I was born out where you're at, out in the West Coast in Los Angeles, and grew up kind of between LA and DC. My parents, they divorced, moved around a ton as a kid. Stepdad was in the military, so kind of everywhere was home to some extent. And yeah, I converted to Catholicism in high school, which was a huge pivotal point for me, and kind of knew I wanted to be involved in the military in some way, shape, or form. Wanted to use the gifts God gave me for the greater good, and thought just the physical gifts, the leadership, the love of country was the way I wanted to serve. And then having my dad, who was a police officer, reserve officer for LAPD for 20 plus years, and then my stepdad, who was an active duty Army officer, just those two kind of examples really made me think about service. So did ROTC in college, commissioned in the Army in 2011, and then with that kind of Catholic background, I might be the first ex-seminarian you've had as well. I spent 4 years studying for the priesthood in the attempt to potentially be a chaplain had I been ordained. Discerned that wasn't what God was calling me to do, so then I went on active duty as an infantry officer, did Ranger School, Airborne School, then went in as a Special Forces Green Beret. So went through all that training, went to the military free fall school, and then ended up at 7 Special Forces Group, where all the COVID fun started happening.
Okay, so let's pause there. So tell us about the Green Beret pipeline, like going from, I'm familiar with indirectly familiar with kind of the process of joining the Navy, either guys that enlist and then try to go to Buds. You don't enter boot camp if you enlist in the Navy knowing you're going to go to Buds. And then I did ROTC, and so there was a few guys in my ROTC class who wanted to go to Buds, and none of those particular individuals made it. But you don't have any idea that you're going to even get accepted to Buds until you're already in the system. And we had a lot of air crewmen in the back of the helicopter that either didn't make it through Buds or didn't make it to Buds, but that was their goal. Do you, when you start in ROTC, do you know you're going to get the option to go Green Beret, or do you have to join?
Absolutely not.
Get commissioned? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so there's a couple ways. You have the enlisted route and the officer route. And the enlisted route, you can enlist as an 18 X-ray, which is you will have the opportunity to go to selection period. So you can enlist starting out as just a private, with the intent and the pipeline to go and become a Special Forces Green Beret enlisted, either 18 Bravo through 18 Echo, which Bravo is weapons, Charlie is engineer, Delta is medic, Echo is communications. You can also, if you're enlisted and you're already in the military, you can still go to selection as an NCO. You can always just go to SFAS, Special Forces Assessment and Selection. If you're an officer, you have to be promotable to captain, so a few years into your career already. But you can come from any...
Is that for Green Beret specifically, or Ranger School that you have to be a captain?
That's for Green Beret. Yeah.
Okay.
So maybe let me start with a bigger thing. So you have SOCOM, Special Operation Command, and underneath SOCOM, you have every branch of the military. Army is confusing because we call our different jobs branches, but there are the branches of the military where you have Air Force, Navy, Army, Marine Corps, and every one of those branches has its own special operations component. Within the Navy, you have Navy Special Warfare, which means Navy SEALs. Within the Air Force, you have Air Force Special Operation Command, which is here, Hurlburt Air Force Base within Florida's 1st Congressional District, which I'm trying to represent. And they have PJs, and then, and other such units, combat controllers, things of that nature, different aircraft. Within the Army, you have Special Forces Green Berets, you have Ranger Regiment, and you have SORE, Special Operations Aviation Regiment. Now, there's kind of this misnomer where a lot of people think that, oh, Navy SEALs are special forces or Marine Raiders are special forces. Special forces only means Special Forces Green Beret. Everything else is special operations. That's why it's Special Operation Command. That's why you have the term special operator or operator. That means that you are within a special operations component. Some purists will say that operator only applies to Delta Force or CAG, or to DevGru, Development Group, which is kind of the Navy SEAL elevated position. Yeah, SEAL Team 6, right? So that's kind of the breakdown. So with Ranger School, you have Ranger Qualified, which is someone who's been to Ranger School. And you also have Ranger Regiment, which is a unit that has 3 different battalions, 1st, 2nd, 3rd Battalion in Fort Benning, Georgia, Savannah, Georgia, or out in Washington State. And then you have Ranger School, which is what just about every infantry officer has to go through that. A number of NCOs go through that. You do have other branches go through. And now I'm using branch to talk about specific jobs within the Army. So, I mean, you might even have a chaplain go through there, right? They have to get a special letter allowing them to do it. But I went to Ranger School as an infantry officer, so I am Ranger Qualified. I think we all remember Tim Kennedy with his, I'm Tim Kennedy, a Special Forces Ranger Qualified Green Beret Sniper. So he said he's Ranger Qualified. He wasn't a Ranger because he wasn't Ranger Regiment, but Ranger Qualified. I hope this doesn't confuse your audience who's used to numbers and finances,
that's cool.
Finances are confusing enough. But so to become a Green Beret as an officer, you have to have served in the military for a period of time to be where you're about to promote to captain. Then you apply to go to SFAS, Special Forces Assessment and Selection. That's a 3-week selection process. And when I went, it was about a 34% attrition rate. The first week is divided up where you're doing a physical fitness test, you're doing psychological tests, IQ tests, you're doing language aptitude tests, you're meeting with psychs, you're doing runs, rucks, obstacle courses, things of that nature, and they're just cutting people constantly. The second week, you're doing land navigation, 10 hours from nighttime into daylight, just super far distances. You can't be on roads. Then the last week, you're doing team week, which is where you're on 2 different teams, so 2 days at a time, so 4 days in a row. And you start with like a low carry, a high carry. You're building an apparatus, and then you're just moving it and you're carrying more weight than you ever thought possible. And I was just stuffing my face. I was having 4 MREs a day. They're about 2,000 calories a pack, and I lost like 20-something pounds. I mean, it's just something ridiculous, right? And they finish it up with a 20-plus mile ruck march, and they have all kinds of peer evaluations at the end, and that's just to get selected. Then you go through.
So that's not the equivalent of buds. That's like to get into buds, to like get the opportunity to start buds equivalent.
Right. Yeah, that's what we have to do to get into the Special Forces qualification course. And
you're already a Ranger. You're in Ranger.
I'm already Ranger qualified.
And now you go through this. And I just want to ask real quick of the language aptitude. Is it like, you have
Yeah.
to speak at least one other language. Is that what it is, or is it?
So the way it works for Special Forces Green Berets, we are different from every other special operation component because we work by, with, and through a partner force. We have 5 active duty Special Forces groups: 1st, 3rd, 5th, 7th, and 10th. Every Special Forces group is assigned and regionally aligned to a different combatant command. So 7th group, where I was assigned, is assigned to Central and South America. So for the most part, we all just learn Spanish. There was a time when some people learned Portuguese, but it just makes more sense for us to all just learn Spanish. If you're in 10th group, you're going to probably learn Russian. If you're in 1st group, you're going to learn Chinese or Thai or something else that's really weird, right? So so what we do in working with, by, with, and through partner force, our main jobs are unconventional warfare and foreign internal defense. Unconventional warfare are activities taken to coerce, disrupt, or overthrow an occupying government or illegitimate power using a guerrilla force, an area in underground, in an area command. So you're kind of working. It's kind of an analogy of Star Wars, where you have like the rebel forces trying to overthrow the Empire, and you have the Jedi that are trying to help the rebels do it. We're kind of the Jedi that are going in there and helping the rebels to overthrow. That's one component of it. Or you can look at it the other way, where we're trying to do a counterinsurgency. We're doing foreign internal defense, where we're trying to get rid of insurgents who are trying to delegitimize an actual power. So in Afghanistan, we were trying to prop up the Afghanistan government by getting rid of the insurgents. Those terrorists within that area, they were trying to overthrow the government that we were standing up. So we were trying to quell that insurgency. So that's counterinsurgency coin operations, right? So I mean, Navy SEALs, and I was just on Eddie Gallagher's podcast recently, and we were kind of like not thinking that any is specifically better than the other. There's definitely those equalizers in each. I think with Green Berets, we have way more ruck marches in our selection process and carrying heavy weights and land navigation. With SEALs, that they have water.
Yeah,
That just sounds awful to me. And because you can join right away as an officer, as enlisted, I think they tend to be a bit younger. They're a bit more well-funded. I don't think they emphasize planning as much. Whereas for us, we work in a 12-man detachment because we're supposed to be operating behind enemy lines. We have different insertion methods. So I was on a military freefall team, and so that was jumping out of planes at 14,000 feet, oxygen equipment, nighttime, etc. That's an infiltration platform to get to a guerrilla force to then try to organize a resistance against an occupying power. Yeah, so they're both just different. Like Navy SEALs are very good at direct action. Yeah, but it's just different, right? It's not, one's not better than the other, just different.
yeah. If I had to, if before any of this, if I had to tell someone the difference, and my best guess at it would be, I know from knowing quite a few SEALs, there's a very heavy, like the team, the platoon, like we do this together. They love to deploy together, and the picture or the description I've gotten for Green Berets is more like either like very small units or individuals that are like behind the scenes, kind of mixing in with the culture. You're more of a I don't know the best if that actually makes sense, but I think
Yeah.
I don't know anything, so I'm just kind of spitballing here. But I just it is an interesting that there is a pretty big distinction there. Obviously, the water aspect is very unique to the SEAL side. I know they do.
And we do have dive teams too in Green Berets. So we have 6 teams each company. Every team has a different method of infiltration. One team is a dive team. So and then we have a water infiltration team on boats and stuff. So. Yeah, I guess you try to distill it down. I think that the Navies operate in larger platoons. They are much more of a direct action force. And then I think Green Berets just kind of working by with and through partner forces is the bigger thing.
Yeah, interesting. So at this point, you pass that 3 or 4 week selection process to see if you then qualify. You said about 34, so like a third of the guys that become Rangers and they go to this selection school.
Oh, they don't have to become Rangers first. That's not a requirement.
Okay. I've always assumed Rangers was like the first
You're
step.
good. But. No, so you have Ranger School, you have Ranger Regiment. You can be Special Forces. You can be a long tabber. You can have the Special Forces tab without having to go to Ranger School. Just I was an officer, I was an infantry officer, so it makes sense to go to Ranger School beforehand. But it's not a requirement. Yeah, not
Okay.
not at all. And
But
in
you
fact,
passed this.
Ranger.
You're one of the three that gets through the selection, and now you start Green Beret school, or what is the pipeline there afterwards?
Yeah, Special Forces qualification course. So one of the difficulties is that the course is changing constantly. But when I went through, we had Special Forces orientation course, which was like 3 or 4 weeks. It really wasn't much. I don't know why we had it. It was kind of like a review of selection with some land nav, some history, etc. Then we had small unit tactics, which was about 6 weeks, which was kind of like Ranger School, except we had more food, more sleep, and the packs were a little bit heavier, and I think we focused a bit more on the tactics. So it was definitely a kind of enjoyable experience as much as those can be. Then you have survival, evasion, resistance, and escape, which is where for 3 weeks they're kind of preparing you to potentially be captured or survive behind enemy lines if separated from friendly forces. Then we had our MOS phase, where as an 18 Alpha, we kind of divided up into foreign internal defense, unconventional warfare, got to talk with some other agencies, CIA, the Department of Homeland of State, other things of that nature. And then you have Robin Sage. That's kind of the culminating exercise where you are pretend that South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia were its own continent in the Atlantic Ocean. And we had an exercise where we envisioned that Virginia invaded North Carolina. We were allies with South Carolina, and we're going to deploy to North Carolina to try to expel Virginia. That was basically the exercise. So it was an unconventional warfare exercise where we partnered with a guerrilla force. We met with a guerrilla chief, area commander, sector commander, and tried to organize a whole resistance. We tried to sway the populace to ourselves, and it was kind of like a Goosebumps thing where you choose your own adventure. You want to drink this potion or not? Here's the consequences. Yeah.
Now, are you out in the wood? Like, is this actual? You're in the state of North Carolina, in the woods doing this, not like a war game in an office kind of thing. This is actual.
No, this is You do the planning at Camp McCall, which is where the majority of the outdoor training for Special Forces takes place and selection takes place. But you do. They have people who rent out their yards, their houses, their campgrounds, etc. They have it built out so amazing. It's just one of the most amazing exercises you'll ever see in the world, I think.
It's called Robin.
Robin Sage.
Oh, Robin Sage. Okay.
Yeah. ROBINSAGE. Robin Sage.
Right.
Yeah. So pretty awesome. I mean, they've had people unfortunately die during it. I mean, in a lot of different military trainings, people die, but I think that people thought that police officers were part of the exercise, but they weren't. Things of that nature, because you are in some times. I mean, in a warfare scenario, you're going to operate with the law enforcement in the area, and then you're also going to kind of figure out what are the rules of engagement. Like, when do you have to wear a military uniform? What constitutes a military uniform for you to take action? So it's just a really fun time if you look back on it. Maybe not when you're in it, but.
Do you have like an embedded instructor that's kind of watching and evaluating?
Yes.
Or
Absolutely. Yeah. So you have multiple instructors that are watching you, evaluating you, figuring out whether you're going to pass or fail. They're looking at different tactics, techniques, procedures, different criteria that you have to meet in order to advance, in order to graduate. And we had like 4 officers on my team. So they can't evaluate you as the officer the entire time. So you're going to rotate out. So I was the officer when we did our initial command brief. I was the officer when we did our final execution of the final mission. So I didn't really have any within the woods interactions that were evaluated. But as the officer, it's kind of funny. You're more or less evaluated on how do you interact with the guerrilla chief, the area commander, sector commander. And there's a lot of interpersonal training that we get with regards to negotiating, which I think will come in handy getting to Congress.
Yeah, that's all. Yeah. So on one final question on that, are the people that you're like the guerrilla leaders, et cetera, are those like Green Berets that are in an instructor role? Are they like civilians that are just trained to do this role? Are they CIA? Like who are you interacting with on this?
Yeah, so the people who are the guerrillas, let's start from the bottom up. The guerrillas who you're kind of just training, they might be students who are waiting to class up for the qualification course. So guys who went through selection but haven't yet classed up. It could also be college students that just want to make some money,
Oh, really?
or just like kids of soldiers that want to get involved. Then when you get to your guerrilla chief, it's probably some really experienced sergeant major, colonel who's been in the military for quite some time. You have some crazy war heroes out there, and you don't figure out who they are until the end.
That's
And
really cool.
sometimes their roles are just they play their roles so well. I think one guy who was pretending to be super atheist was really religious, and the really religious one was atheist, and they're trying to play that off of whatever your background is, and but yeah, you'll have a lot of people who have had that experience as Green Berets, have had many deployments, and they just get involved in these exercises, and it's just a fun thing for them.
That's really cool. That's awesome. All right, so start to finish, you pass the selection, and now you're in. How long is that pipeline to finish Robin Sage and get your beret? I guess is like
Yeah. So let's see here. Might have been like a year and 3 months, 4 months to kind of go through. And I didn't include the special operations force captain's career course. That's something that officers had to go through for like 3 months. That's kind of a requirement to become a captain. But yeah,
okay.
it was good, more or less, right? It was with psychological operations officers, civil affairs officers, but it's about that long. And then you have language training for about 6 months afterwards. And then if you're going to go through an infiltration school, so I went through the military free fall, that was another month. And then you also have dive, which some people go through before as well. So I was at Fort Bragg for about 2 years before graduating the course. That was extended a little bit based on COVID. Now, they do things to try to shrink the timeline to optimize it because there is some waiting time in between every different phase. So it just kind of depends on who the current commander of the U.S. Special Forces, U.S. Warfare, JFK Warfare Center is at the time.
And of those 34% who make it to the course for the training, is it like once you're in, you're pretty much in unless you really screw up, or are they still trying to weed people out at that point?
They're not really weeding out as much. Like there's certainly people who do not pass. I mean, I don't really know, maybe 90%, right? Like it's not, yeah, most people who make it selection is they try to do selection so that they can then save the money when they're going through the Q course there to really evaluate and make sure that a person has the capabilities, the personality that's going to be a good fit for special forces. So you're pretty
Right.
much good after that.
Okay. So they probably paid for your degree with ROTC. At this point, you're probably 6 years in at least total as an officer, maybe by the time you finish and get your Green Beret. But I just want to put into perspective how catastrophic this absurd mandate was, and like what the Army cost themselves by one breaking the law, but two just violating common sense here. So let's shift to the mandate side. So you said that it sounded like your training was interrupted by COVID. Is that or like?
Well, yeah. I mean, I was at military free fall in March of 2020 when COVID started happening. So the first 2 weekends we could go wherever we wanted to, get off grounds, and then it's like, oh crap, this huge epidemic is happening. It's coming. What are we going to do? So
Yeah.
I graduated the military free fall course with only 17 jumps. Typically, you get in the 20s or something of that nature. You get a lot more jumps in, but graduated from that. They flew us home, and then we were just waiting for a few months to get exception of policies in order to PCS to our next duty station. PCS meaning permanent change of station. So we'd graduated the course. We're ready to go to wherever it is we were going to get assigned. So
Like your first set of
graduated,
orders as a Green Beret.
right? Yeah. So I graduated in like March. I knew I was going to seventh group. Didn't get there until like June. So maybe March, April is when I got done, and then we were just kind of sitting and waiting till we were approved to move out to the next station because we were all kind of just scared about COVID. Just put the world on halt.
And where is seventh group out of? Like where were you PCSing to?
Yeah, Eglin Air Force Base.
Florida.
So that is, yeah, Eglin Air Force Base is more or less Niceville, Florida. And then 7th Group is closer to Crestview, Florida. So that's all. I live in Destin, so I'm about 45 minutes, 40 minutes from 7th Group, about 25-ish minutes from Eglin Air Force Base. And I've lived here since I got stationed down here. And am currently running for that congressional district. Yep.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we're definitely gonna cover that. We were obviously like with naval aviation. We started in Pensacola and then did some time in.
Yeah, yeah.
So I have a little bit of time in the Panhandle area. But
Love Pensacola. Go there all the time. Yeah.
it's great. All right. So what is your experience? How do we go from you're kind of waiting to PCS, you PCS, and then obviously the mandate derails everything at that point, right? Like what was your experience with the mandate, with denying it, with an RA? Like how did that 1 year of just insanity play out for you?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I got to seventh group in June of 2020. I mean, some of the Biden nonsense was already there even before COVID happened. Or no, sorry, we're still, gosh, we're still Trump years. But yeah, this is throwing me off. No, there was a transgender major at seventh group when I got here, so it was like a Green Beret who he identified as a she.
Oh,
So that was kind of the first test of what are you going to do, and I'm like, I'm gonna I'm gonna do what's right. I'm just gonna
yeah,
I just rank and last name. Didn't call him ma'am. We're just gonna go with how God made the world. Um, get
that's
to my
amazing.
team. So we were the last battalion that was deployed and had casualties during the Afghanistan war. So I have not had any combat deployments. The battalion I got assigned to was already overseas when I had gotten there, and they were going to come back from Afghanistan within a couple months. So they didn't really send any of us over there to join them. But yeah, we had a couple casualties before that redeployment. That was kind of the last casualties of the war before the disastrous withdrawal. So everybody comes back in August of 2020. I take the team in September. We all know that the COVID shot is coming out. My guys are pretty based, pretty patriotic. I threw a Trump flag up in the team room. No one's really cared.
Yeah.
And as we're just kind of openly talking about this shot, I first and foremost, I'm a Christian, I'm Catholic, I'm pro-life. I know these shots use aborted fetal cells. I think to myself, I'm not going to get this unless I'm absolutely required to do so, at least at first, right? I tell my team later on when the shot comes out that, hey, as your senior raider, I'm neither going to punish or reward you based on whether you get the shot. If you want to, if we get crap for it, whatever, I'll deal with it, but that's your personal decision. And we got a lot of pressure from the sergeant major. At least my team sergeant was brought in a number of times, just kind of harassed about getting the numbers up, because at that point in time, the metric for being a good leader was the percentage of your team, your unit that had taken the COVID shot, which was just an absolute terrible. It's just a trash metric, right?
Yeah, it's so stupid. Like looking back, I mean, even at the time, it felt really stupid. But looking back now, I mean, that whole thing was a blessing. When you mentioned that your cross-dressing major there, I remember um, sitting with my wife. I was doing grad school when everything happened, and my classes went online. So we are just traveling around New England. And I remember we were in Stowe, Vermont for a week just skiing, and I would pop in and do a class. And that was when they did the extremism stand down, and it was, how basically everything I believe makes me a threat to national
Yeah.
security. And I remember telling my wife, like, between this and then before, when I was in Japan and we had our first transgender training, I remember saying, like, I'm never going to teach this. And one day I'm going to be, because at that point in my career, I was coming up on 04. I'm about to go to my department head tour, which for us is an operational flying. There's 4 or 5 04s in the squadron. And I would be the one teaching this stuff. And I remember saying, like, I'm not going to teach this. I'm not going to teach transgender training. I'll refuse. But will I risk my career and 15 years of towards the 20-year goal? Like, am I going to actually die on that hill, or am I just say I'm going to do it? And I know I'm not going to teach this stuff, but at the same time, what's like, will I actually give up my flying career for this? I never had to answer that, because a very easy decision came later, obviously with the shot mandate. But it's just so wild now thinking that, like, the metric of, we always laughed readiness, and it's like, they would say turn those taco chips green, so they would just have these little triangles on a
Yeah.
slide, and if they were either red or yellow or green, and you were just rewarded by how much green you had on your screen. And it's the same thing with the shots. That idea that your percentage of people who have taken the COVID shot is your measure of leadership is exactly the opposite of what a real leader should be.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
unbelievable.
100%. No, it was pretty ridiculous. Every company meeting, battalion meeting hire started with how many of your guys have had the shot, how many have had one dose, when is the next uh, shot rodeo happening. It's what we call them, vaccine rodeos, whatever. You get your anthrax, you get your COVID, you get your flu, whatever you need. Um, yeah, guys leaving there with autism or something, like, I don't know. But
Like
it,
how is anybody in the military still walking?
I don't know, man. I think that there's definitely a lot of harm. Unfortunately, that a lot of people have experienced. They might not even know it.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, there were guys coming up to me because they knew my stance, and they'd say, "Man, I've had this cough for forever, and I think it's linked to the shot." Or, "After getting this, I've had some kind of paralysis in my face, droopy, whatever." And it's just really unfortunate. But
Yeah.
if people don't think critically and stand up for what's right, that's what's going to happen.
And it was
We
funny leading up to that for 2 years. It's like any symptom that anyone had at all. It's like, oh I have floaters in my eye, or my ear
Yeah.
is cut, and they're like, oh, it's COVID. It's definitely COVID. It's like, no, it was in a motorcycle crash. Oh, that was COVID, right?
Oh
Everything
yeah.
was COVID for 2 years. But then afterwards, when the shots happen and everyone's having legitimate adverse reactions, it couldn't be the shot. Couldn't
Yeah,
be it.
definitely COVID. Definitely COVID. It's long COVID. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it's long COVID. I mean,
100%.
that's so
Yeah.
preposterous.
Hmm.
Oh man, just comedy now at this point.
Right.
So you started with the RA, or sorry, started with the fetal cell issue, which I think a lot of us got there first, and like that was my impetus. My wife was pregnant with our first at the time, and going through this deep dive and really learning about all of this stuff, and it's like I'd been adamantly anti-abortion before that, but it hit differently when we're about to have our daughter, and it's like something that was a conviction on paper. I mean, not on paper, but it's like I don't believe in this, but it felt so much more powerful to that stance when it was all right, we're about to have a daughter, and the fact that someone would ever like think that her sacrificing her in the name of quote science was it became much more of an emotional thing. So when did it shift for you from not shift but starting with the religious element of it and the being against abortion to the legal side of it, where not only do I not believe this, but I also know you're breaking the law? Like, how did that change happen for you?
Oh yeah. I mean, I didn't. I guess I figured out that it was breaking the law in August when the mandate came out, and we knew that Pfizer had not gotten the FDA approval that it was Comirnaty, and Comirnaty was not available. I had made the decision, I think, in June timeframe, kind of peacefully through prayer, discernment, that I just wasn't going to get the shot no matter what.
Yeah.
At first, I was kind of a not a soft no, but I just wasn't exactly sure. I just knew I was going to at least wait until it was mandatory, because as a Catholic, my given the tools that I had for discernment and for moral theology, I thought of it as remote material cooperation. But reading a number of different religious articles,
Yeah.
theological, moral theological articles, came to this greater sense of it's the continued use of aborted fetal cells. It's the continued theft of the baby's body part, not just the remote murder that happened decades ago. It's that we have to properly dispose of these body parts. So the lawful thing certainly is very, very significant, but the moral thing for me was kind of what did it for me as far as not getting it. Even if they had said, "Hey, man, this is totally illegal," I'll be all right, cool. Well, I'm totally legally not doing it. Good for you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I feel the same way. That it was like I'm not going to take this. Fortunately, they gave us a legal out. They didn't honor it, of course. They didn't hold up their end of the rules that they wrote, which is
Right, right.
if it's an EUA product, an emergency use product, you can't order someone to take it. But it was great that not only am I not going to take this, but also I now have legal standing because you're admitting in court you're never going to
Yeah.
produce this approved shot.
But I did have a lot of fun on my officer. When I was counseled, I took their whole counseling statement, looked at the paragraphs, and kind of numbered the paragraphs. Paragraph 1, you say that COVID's extremely dangerous, the shot's safe. Like, it's not. We've had this many deaths associated with the shot. 2, you say that it's FDA approved. It's not FDA approved. I can't actually honor this order. And I think a lot of my team did that too. Or like, I don't know, my poor company commander, he probably had like the most well-informed, legally informed team detachment in all of special forces, because I'd been talking to the legal assistants there. I talked to other JAGs. I informed the dudes. Most of my guys just didn't want to get it. I think they ended up faking it later on.
Yeah.
They didn't go the religious exemption route, but
Yeah.
they all just told the company commander, like, this is Comirnaty, not Pfizer. What are we doing? And he's just like, bro, I don't know. I'm not a doctor or lawyer either.
Yeah, that's awesome. Good for you. I think I think it was fun. I mean, it was stressful and like it was unfair. Like it still kind of stings like losing that career, but it wasn't fair. But it worked. I would never change any of it. It worked out so much better. And I mean,
Hmm.
I always just think now, my business partner, Air National Guard, people told me when I was getting out, you have 5 more years, just do reserves 1 week in a month, super chill. And Brian got mobilized and is now in the Middle East. And that's not something we had on our bingo card because he had the Trump
Yeah.
card. You could just drop his retirement paperwork whenever he wanted. He's already past 20. So it's like, we just did not see this coming. My wife and I think, I mean, can you imagine now like how nervous we would be if I was reserves? It's like the idea that
Yeah.
I'm never leaving my family again. My daughter asked me yesterday, um, if I was going to be at her birthday party, which is like 11 months from now, but she's a 5-year-old. So it's always about birthday
Whoa.
parties. And
Yeah.
she's like, Dad, are you going to be at my birthday party next year? She was just listing everyone who's going to be there. And I was like, yeah, I'm never going to miss another one again. Cause I did miss one,
Mm.
due to the ensuing
Gosh, and she's
punishment.
5, so she remembers that.
So it was her second birthday, so she doesn't remember that. I mean, I think she knows that I wasn't there because she was asking about who goes to birthday parties. Like,
Oh,
it was
okay.
more just, I say that more just for the fact that it was just, I had this like sense of peace to be able to say, I'm never missing another one.
Oh, okay.
Just because
Is it
they
something like
can't.
your wife told your daughter, like, "Hey, your dad missed one of your birthday parties," and then they're kind of like women conspiring and remembering things that you did wrong in the past, or
I don't know how exactly how it got to that, but I have 2 daughters now, so I always joke with my wife
I
like,
just got married, so I'm trying to figure out, do they remember things from that young? Like, what am I in for? I
I
don't
don't remember
know.
everything. And I always joke that like one day that I'm gonna have 3 people, in the car telling me a stop sign's coming up or that light's changing. um, but so the RA, they just ignored it. I'm assuming like with all of
Oh
us,
yeah,
did it ever get
yeah. I mean,
processed?
every branch was different, right? So you had the Air Force was, I think Air Force Marine Corps were trying to deny him as quickly as possible, and then you had the legal stays. What do you call those? Trying to think.
When they got ordered to like you.
The injunctions, right? They had the
Yeah.
injunctions come in and say you have to stop. The Army never got one because they didn't process people out quickly enough. So mine was standing for over a year, which time I couldn't deploy, PCS, or move to a different duty station or travel, right? And my next job assignment was ironically to teach ethics at West Point. So at this point in time, my entire detachment, we had a mission taken from us before the mandate ever came about to a country that I don't think actually required the COVID shot. But because First Special Forces Command made it a requirement to have the COVID shot even before the mandate came out, we all had to give it up because my team was like, nah, we don't want to. Apart from one guy was like, we don't want to get it. We're just going to hold off, which was pretty awesome.
That's epic.
Then my team time was cut short after I put the exemption in because I am basically just a useless team leader. I can't deploy. I can't travel. What good am I, right? And then as far as teaching at West Point, I couldn't PCS to go to grad school to get my philosophy degree and teach philosophy and ethics. So after waiting for a year and then having like a 2-star come and talk to us, he had a town hall, which was kind of like open mic, ask your questions, and you're not supposed to ask controversial or dumb questions, but I went ahead and was like, "Hey, sir, Captain Frankman, AS3 over in 37. 2 weeks ago, CDC said there's no distinction between those who are vaccinated and not vaccinated. That said, there's about 30 of us who haven't had the shot, and we can't deploy PCS or go TDY. And I've also had my exemption pending for about a year or so. Is there any talk about getting rid of this mandate, and when are we going to get our exemptions back?"
Yeah.
And he responded with, "Have you heard of Novavax?" And I said, "Yes, sir, that uses aborted fetal cells too." And he was a little bit taken aback and was like, "Well, if the Army tells you to do something, you should really do it. And I don't want to kick anyone out, but I will. And we're trying to meet you halfway there, so you should just do it." And at that point, I'm like, "Bro, I'm getting out of here. This is just stupid."
Yeah. What was that guy's name? I mean, if you don't like.
Yeah,
I think
Roberson.
him.
Major General Roberson. I think he retired
Okay.
now.
There's no chance he's going to listen to this, but you are a coward, Major General Roberson. Like that
Oh
is.
yeah,
just pathetic.
it's been fun because I've I have to actually text and ask everybody I know for money. That's part of running for Congress, and it's also one of the difficulties. One of the difficulties of running against an incumbent is that the price difference. But I had a really fun conversation with one of the majors, one of the leaders I had at 7th Group, and he's like, "Oh man, I can't wait to see you grilling all these generals up on the Hill in congressional hearings." It's like, yeah, absolutely, we'll do that. And
can't
that's
wait.
one of the things that sucks so bad is that even in this administration, some of the biggest COVID tyrants are still up at the top.
Oh, yeah.
And just Congress doesn't care. Like, you and I both know that the reinstatement process is absolute shit.
Oh
That it
yeah,
just sucks.
yeah. They want a headline. They want to be able to. They want this to go away under the rug. They want it to go quietly, and I think they want to do as little as they can. And they being, I mean, I go back and forth on the sincerity of Hegseth's efforts. I know like Rob Green and other people are working on it from the inside and say that there is a small cadre of people with intention. I just don't see. I feel like the administration wants this issue just removed forever because it's always going to be like, this is still Trump's vaccine. He still brags about it to this day. Like it's hard for. I think it's going to be hard to separate that. And
Right.
it seems like they want a headline like we fix the accountability, we fix the we reinstatement efforts, and let's just move on quietly. And but like you said, the reinstatement efforts have no one's taken them up on that. It's just
Yeah, I mean it's very low numbers now. I do think there's so many genuine people working on it from within, people
yeah
who are from our ranks who signed the Declaration of Military
yeah
Accountability. Met with a lot of them, but they're just meeting some resistance because you have the bureaucracy that was in the Pentagon before Trump was elected.
yeah
I do think that Trump legitimately wants us to come back in if we want to come back in. I do think that Pete Hegseth legitimately believes that was an unlawful order, that there
yeah
needs to be reinstatement for us. And I just know that there's a million issues that they're facing. And I don't think that COVID accountability is the highest one. I think that even, reading in Hegseth's book, very, very good outline of the problems that he saw in the military. Now, he left before COVID happened, so I don't think he quite saw through it. So I think he was much more on the attack against just the
the
transgenders,
DEI
the DEI, other things of that nature.
yeah
Probably the Afghanistan war because that received a whole lot more attention. But I don't think that people quite know that COVID is the one that you really want to tackle because you have a lot more legal rounding and teeth to really dig in there. If you want to, the ones who are the biggest COVID tyrants are also the ones who are the biggest, biggest transgender cheerleaders and things of that nature. So just go after that, and that's gonna be the linchpin that really helps you get rid of all the trash.
yeah that's a very good point. And I'm glad. I mean, like you said, there are some people that we know in our networks that are fighting very hard from the inside. There's a lot of sincere people, but personally, I just have to I'm just operating under the assumption that nothing's going to change and there's going to be no accountability. Because I think for me, hoping for that, I'm still in debt to the Treasury. I don't get angry when I talk about it anymore, but they charged me with breach of contract. It was just it was such an infuriating time that I also wouldn't change. And so I'm expecting nothing is actually going to happen. None of these people are going to be held accountable, and it's a bonus if they are. But so talking about the congressional race, what brought you to make that decision? What is the process like? You said obviously trying to fundraise is a huge element of it, but why Congress? I guess that's a pretty obvious answer, but like that's how we make change. But what drove you to do that? How's it been so far?
Yeah, I mean, when I got out of the military, I went on a silent retreat, tried to ask God, what is it that you want me to do next? And coming out of that, I ended up writing an op-ed that got published on a kind of providential day that was symbolic. I went on an Ignatian retreat, and then on Ignatius feast day, the op-ed's published. And it was on my experience of not getting the shot in the military that led me to get on different interviews, that led me to going up to the Hill, to talking to different congressmen, different staffers. And while I was up there were definitely some good people to connect with, but there was also this kind of frustration that there's just not enough getting done. And there's some common sense stuff that absolutely could happen. Like, for instance, Republicans had the majority in the House. They can hold whatever hearings they want. And they have the House Armed Service Committee, and they should be holding more hearings on COVID, on the mandate, so that they could have set Trump up with, hey, here's all the problems and here are solutions that we already have set and ready for you. But I wrote every single member of them, published it all in Gateway Pundit, did a lot of work on that, and just, hey, whatever. They just want to stay quiet too, right? Maybe they're all getting funded by Big Pharma or something. I don't know. But it was just going up there, and just that gave me kind of a zeal and a desire to get up there, to make a difference, to fight, to change. When Matt Gaetz he was my congressman. He took me to the State of the Union as his guest, which was just an amazing experience.
Oh, that's cool.
Then later on, I was able to.
Is this 24? 25?
Yeah, 2024. 24,
Okay.
yeah. And then later on, met Trump. I became part of Veterans for Trump, was really fighting to get him in office. And at a town hall, was able to ask him what he would do to repair the military, hold leaders accountable. So all those were just amazing experiences that was kind of leading me up to eventually running. And I ran in the special election when Matt Gaetz was picked up for Attorney General. Very unfortunately for the entire country, but fortunately for everybody who is in Epstein's list, he was not actually selected for Attorney General.
Yeah, when you see those very specific targeted, they try to dust off an allegation from 30 years ago that, like, when they're just trying to assassinate someone politically.
Yeah, I mean, with him, I think that, and he was kind of honest that, yeah, I don't have the cleanest past. I don't think he did anything illegal at all. I think that he just pissed off a lot of people when he got rid of Kevin McCarthy. Kevin McCarthy funded a bunch of primary challenges against the people who voted to get rid of him, which was just very unfortunate use of Republican money. And yeah, I think that Gaetz had just been such a fighter who didn't really answer to special interest groups, the establishment. He didn't take any special interest groups' money, and they want to get rid of him. And they were going to use the ethics committee to get rid of him, which was just absolutely unfortunate. So at any rate, didn't work for Attorney General either, because I think he had pissed off enough senators that they were like, ooh, I don't know if I want this guy around. Yeah. But ran for that election. I dropped out when Trump made his endorsement, which, love a lot of things about Trump, a lot of what he's doing. A lot of his endorsements, not really a huge fan of. But at that point, he had just won the general election, and I wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt, let this guy continue forward. So Jimmy Patronis gets it, wins in a landslide, because it's like 11 people in the race, right? So at that point, would just be splitting the vote among other military folks. Over the last year, I've been very disappointed with Congress. Have you been happy with Congress this last year, Hans?
No, I think it's clear that you either accept specific special interest money, or you get bought out, or you get out fundraised. And I think that my view, Congress is completely against the interests of the American people. So I really hope you win, because I think it's a travesty. Like, obviously, I understand why you run for a Republican seat, because you're not just an insane sodomite. So, like, to be a Democrat at this point is such a preposterous thing as a man, to be a Democrat. So, like, obviously, in the two-party system, you got to go Republicans. But the Republicans have been so disappointing on so many of these issues. Like, there's a few wins here and there, and a few things to really hang your hat on for Trump as well. But there's so many things that it's like head scratching. Like, why? Like you said, we have the majority. Why are you not just going full force on this? Like, you were elected to
100%. We have the House, the Senate, the presidency. What are we doing, right? I mean, if we're just going to let Trump run with executive orders, which he's doing so much good, some things we both don't necessarily agree with, and that's okay. You never agree with somebody 100%. But yeah, I mean, Congress needs to be making sure that what happened under Biden doesn't happen again. Yeah. And when Trump came in this time, it was, hey, we have a lot of work to do to undo the work that Biden did. Now, it's easier to destroy things than to build them up and repair them. But I would like to get to a point where, after Republicans leave office, when the next Democrat comes in, it's like, man, it's going to be really hard to undo the legislation that these Republicans passed when they had the majority, because they used the majority to advance their agenda and the agenda of their voter base. That doesn't happen. That's not happening right now. We had about the one big beautiful bill, which was about the only legislation passed. There really hasn't been a whole lot. It's been very unproductive. Even to put through, I think with the SAVE Act, with trying to get voter ID that John Thune can't get it through, is insane. That they didn't have this lined up, ready for Trump to sign the law on January 20th when he was sworn in. It's just absolutely ridiculous. So it seems as though very slow to act, very quick to be on the defensive, write strongly worded letters. And with regards to my district, why I'm running, I'm running against Jimmy Patronis. He's the current congressman. He's from Panama City, not from the specific district itself. And it's one thing to be endorsed by Trump, quote unquote, asked by Trump to run here. Okay, maybe Susie Wiles got the endorsement for you, something like that. Okay. But then you have to actually be part of the community. And you haven't had, most people don't actually believe that you live here. We think that you probably spend more nights in Panama City when you're back in town. But you have to really fight for us and put forward strong legislation for us. And this is the most veteran densely populated district in the country. We have more veterans here than anywhere else in the country at all.
Wow.
And you don't have a veteran on your staff until I start challenging you in the primary. That's a problem. That means that there's veterans that are contacting your office for help with the VA, and you're not able to help them out in processing their disability claims. In fact, it's a former Gaetz staffer who's helping me with my campaign that's able to process more of them than you probably have, because it's one thing. And like, what I like about being an 18 Alpha, being a Special Forces company commander, or sorry, detachment commander, is that you have your Bravo, your Charlie, your Delta. You know you're not the expert in everything, so you rely on the expertise in others to fill in your blind spots. It was such a blind spot for him with the military that he didn't know or even think that he needed a veteran to fill in his blind spot on the military.
Yeah.
Matt Gaetz, he had multiple veterans in his staff. He had a military legislative assistant in his office in DC. He just was able to cover it. With Patronis, he just hasn't done that. And we need to prioritize the military. We need to prioritize veterans in the area. We have to fight fully for accountability. I mean, since I've been running against him, he was asked about the Epstein files, and he was said that, oh, we need to move on past those files. There's no more work to be done in those documents.
Somebody's in them.
I mean, I think he's just doing what he's told to do. And I think that he's more concerned about what Mike Johnson wants him to do than what the voters of Florida's 1st Congressional District want him to do. And I think this is a huge problem.
So what are your, obviously veterans issues is going to be your primary one. Are there other, so give me kind of a layout of the race. Who obviously you have the incumbent. Are there other people in the race as well that are meaningful? You know, like I'm sure there's like non-factors running. It seems like there always are, but
I mean, even the non-factors can split the vote, which is a frustrating thing. And we did have a Navy guy jump in a little bit over a month after me on the Republican side. And like a lot of people think that he's potentially a plant because he's kind of like, yeah, I'm America first. I'm military. I got out because I didn't get the COVID shot. But by that, I mean, I didn't get the booster. I got the first two, but I was going to say no to the booster. It's just like, seriously. Yeah.
That's a platform. What?
I don't know, man. But anyway, it's like, so, and that's where it's just like, whether well-intentioned or not, that's something that helps the incumbent.
Yeah.
If you want to get rid of an incumbent, it's such an uphill battle. It has to be a yes/no vote against him. If you have others on there, it splits the vote. It makes it more difficult. But as far as meaningful candidates, there's a Democrat who's running again. And last time she ran in the special election, she was able to take Escambia County, which is the largest county we have in the district. And it has not gone blue since 1992. And some people say, oh, it's because Escambia County, Pensacola is getting more liberal. Others have said, no, it's because Jimmy Patronis was not a solid candidate and didn't actually do any campaigning. I'm kind of in that side of it. And I think we need to get people fired up to want to come out and to want to vote for their representative.
Yeah.
So it's kind of just Patronis, myself are kind of the bigger runners on the Republican side. And then you have Democrat Gabe Vallimont, who's on the Democrat side.
Okay. I wonder, I mean, it seems like the easiest political win in the world to just say, I didn't take any shots and I forfeited my career over it. You took the coward's way out. You took them, and then you don't get to claim victory over, you don't get to claim that as a stance if you took the first two shots and just refused the booster. Like that's not a thing.
I didn't come up with the talking point. He did. It is what it is.
That's unbelievable. That's unbelievable. What's his name?
Yeah.
No, let's not even do that. Wow, that's crazy. So Matt Gaetz has been kind of a mentor, it sounds like. Or
yeah, he's been so good to me. And I mean, taking me on to the State of the Union, and then he's had me on his show about a dozen times or so. I think that this is his former seat. I think he's more or less staying out of it, which, hey man, I understand you got to kind of do what's best for you, right? A number of his staffers are certainly helping me out. One of his former campaign managers is helping me and is my campaign manager right now, or staff on his campaign side, and somebody on his veteran side, and some other ones have reached out, given some advice and things like that. But really looked up to him, also really look up to Thomas Massie, and was able to form somewhat of a relationship with him as well, going up on the Hill, because back in 2021, I started writing different congressmen like, hey, this COVID shot's coming. What are y'all going to do? And I had no idea how any of this worked. I'm just totally lost in the sauce, calling different senators' offices, really disappointed when Rubio sends a letter saying, I'll make sure I prioritize vaccines for Floridians. It's like, did you read my letter?
Ted Cruz is the same way. I'm Texas, and Ted Cruz is the exact same way.
Yeah, disappointment, right?
Yeah.
I don't even
Massie's
know.
the man. That's I hope he runs for president with you on the ticket one day. That would be phenomenal.
He would have many better people to put on the ticket than me. But that would be a very interesting thing to see. And I guess, the hope from that is looking at how much money they had to spend and kind of what was exposed in that is that special interest groups' money. It's just so unfortunate how powerful it is in politics. How much of an uphill battle it is to get good people elected, reelected. So we're going to continue that fight for good, period.
And it was a good, going through the COVID fight. It's like once a few commanders started just having the courage to just say, hey, we were wrong. And like the public tide in the military started to kind of change against this. And it became palatable and acceptable for people to say, what's happening to you guys is not right. I got, as time went on, I got more and more people reaching out saying like, hey, now that I can kind of peek out from behind the wall, like, hey, what they did was not right, and I think you're right. This was illegal. Well, in the same way, it's like after seeing what happened to Massie, that was just so transparent that now I think more and more candidates are gonna be able to say, hey, look, no foreign funding for me. How about you? Like I think it becomes acceptable to start framing that. So even though it sucks that for him and for the influence that he was having, like there is that good legacy there. So hopefully we haven't seen the last of him. And I know you got to go on. Yeah.
Oh, no, you're good. I was going to say that sometimes people stepping out is that makes the strongest stance. And just looking at this race, the national coverage it got, certainly he was a loud voice within Congress. And depending on what he chooses for his political future, he could continue to be that as well. And I was on another podcast and was talking about Joe Kent. And I thought that the decision he made to step out was courageous to kind of speak what he believed was true, whether you agree with him or not. At least he was honest about it. And that's going to have a larger effect for the issue that he's pushing by leaving the administration than had he stayed in and tried to toe the company line to the best extent he could and influence policy from within. So it's kind of what's another Star Wars analogy? Obi-Wan Kenobi, strike me down, I'll be more powerful than you can ever imagine kind of thing. So we'll just see what happens.
Well, I know you got to leave in a couple minutes, so I don't want to take up too much more of your time. I'll say my unofficial slogan: don't be a gay, vote the Green Beret. I don't know if you want to put that on a t-shirt or anything, but maybe we'll make some Remnant Finance t-shirts with our endorsement there. Where can people support?
Oh, one funny thing I've been doing on social media is, does your congressman even lift, bro? That's kind of a fun one, like doing CrossFit, doing some muscle ups, back squatting, a little bit.
So challenge your competitors to a lift off. Hey, I'm the only unvaxxed one among us.
Yeah. Only unvaxxed.
I'll press all of you.
Yeah. But people can go to frankmanforflorida.com if they want to find me. I'm on social media. I'm on X, Instagram, Facebook. It's totally a grassroots campaign. I mean, I will only win if God wants me to win. I will only win with his help. And I've prayed to him that, God, if this is not good for my soul, if this is not good for my salvation, do not let it pass. But it's only with his help and with the help of whatever donors, helpers want to get involved. So if you're impressed by anything I said, or you really just don't like establishment candidates and want to support somebody who's trying to fight it, you can go to frankmanforflorida.com. You can donate. You can buy merch. We have hats, shirts, yard signs, bumper stickers, whatever. But any help is absolutely appreciated. I mean, if you know anyone who lives within Pensacola, Destin, the Panhandle area, share this podcast with them. And feel free to reach out.
Awesome. Appreciate that. Well, proud of you, man. And for those in Florida who can vote for you, you've seen someone who went through the most rigorous training the military has to offer and withstood the pressure and said, I will give up my career before I will cave to this unlawful order. That's who you want in Congress. That's unfortunately who we want in the military. I mean, that's who we want in the military as well. It's like, it's unfortunate for the Green Beret community that you're not there, but it should be a blessing for Floridians in your district, because that is exactly what you want. So thanks for coming on, man. And everyone go to frankmanforflorida.com and help out however you can. Share this with anybody in that district, like you said. So, all right, man. Thank you. Cheers.
Thanks for having me. See you, Hans. Bye.
All right.
Thanks for listening to Remnant Finance. If you found any value at all in this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend.
Remember, true financial freedom comes from taking control of your personal economy and breaking free from the status quo. So stop being a passenger in your family's financial future.
Boldly take back control of your wealth. Until next time,
this is Brian and Hans signing off.